This week on Silicon Reel, we have Daniel Murray, founder and chief marketing officer of Grabble.
When you say Tinder for fashion, don't have to explain it to anyone. We trended on Twitter and we did over 20,000 downloads in a night. Holy shit, we're the #1 app. The magic team is a designer, a developer, and a hustler. We're both hustlers? Is that a thing? Because you're making binary options on our app the whole time, you're always giving us data. The app market is still kind of fresh. People are still relearning the rules. You've got to be nice to everyone. You've got to make time for everyone if you possibly can. When you're raising money for a startup, it's a journey, and you've got to take what you're given at each stage and hope that it improves.
Silicon Reel presents Daniel Murray, Grabble.
Try things and be positive.
This is Silicon Reel, the weekly talk show dedicated to the people of the London technology startup scene. My guest today is Daniel Murray, who is the founder and chief marketing officer of Grabble, which provides instant, shoppable fashion content that can be bought on the go in just a couple of swipes. It's also known as the Tinder for fashion. You guys are currently the #1 ranking fashion app in the UK. You've just raised 1.2 million sterling from some high-profile angel investors like Skimlink's chairman Alex Hoy, good friend of mine, great guy, and Mark Boyan, who backed Pinterest, and Jamal Edwards, SBTV. Daniel, welcome to Silicon Reel.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. I guess we should just come clean and tell everyone that we met at the gym, because that's how I bumped into you. I saw you wearing your Seed Camp shirt. Was that it?
Yeah, that is very true.
And
it's so funny. That was the one day I wore it as well. I got in trouble for having it on. It's hilarious, though, that we happened to meet at the gym of all places.
Yeah, I know, of all places, and it was weird. And it's weird because I wasn't always that guy even a year ago. I was a little quieter, and I just introduced myself, and all of a sudden we started talking, and then I started playing with your app today, and I was super impressed. I want to jump into also the whole concept of competing in the app space, because I had the CEO of Hotel Tonight here a few months back, and they're another app-only platform, and he was just telling me how it's a completely different ballgame than not being in that space. And I know you've learned a lot about that over the last year or so, right?
Really interesting. You mentioned Hotel Tonight.
Right.
Last thing that I read before I came out here tonight was a case study of a specific thing that Hotel Tonight did, because actually they're pretty great innovators in the app space. Okay. And being the CMO, I subscribe to every single growth hacking subscription, newsletter, whatever you can possibly get. And there's a great one by a guy called Morgan Brown that I get, and his newsletter today was on Hotel Tonight and how they improved their not ranking, but actual bookings by discovering people were more likely to book on Hotel Tonight's app on 4G than they were on Wi-Fi. And the reason was because on Wi-Fi, they were more likely, they had faster bandwidth, so they were more likely to try out different competitors in different areas. But it's a totally counterintuitive thing to understand. But as soon as they looked into the data on like 4G versus Wi-Fi, they just doubled down their budget on 4G only connections and made a killing. Wow. So it's quite interesting to see, looking at the data of like companies like Hotel Tonight and what they do.
Yeah, and when I talked to him, I just wasn't aware of this whole app space versus the non-app space, and how it's a completely different competitive landscape. Everyone has a buddy who wants to design an app, but then I don't think they ever know what it's like to market an app and how it can get completely lost in the storm, and only the top 10 can come up. And so I'd love to talk to you about that. It's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. But one of the comments you made that I picked up on when we were talking is this. You said that you focused your efforts on the user experience primarily on mobile, and then e-commerce secondly, when a lot of your competitors or a lot of people in the space are trying to stuff commerce down a mobile platform. Yeah. And I know that's a nuanced point, but I'd love for you to expand on that, because I think it's the difference between you guys being alive and you being dead.
Yeah. So for us, it's very simple to be like, oh, Tinder for fashion, because on the face of it, that is a pretty simple thing.
Right. And you really do swipe left and right to say the kind of fashion items you like, right? And your algorithm learns from that?
Exactly. Okay. So, and it's a very simple way. And the other great thing is like your typical way of understanding your customer in a web-based product is, do you like this? Do you like that? Would you like us to review your feedback, etc.? Whereas, because you're making binary options on our app the whole time, you're always making a decision. Right. So you're always giving us data. And that data is quite, you've got to be careful how subjective you are with it, because just because you swipe left on a green shirt doesn't mean you don't like green, doesn't mean you don't like shirts. There's a lot of nuances that go into the data, but the important thing is we start to understand, especially things like price point, which is key, and brands that you like. But yeah, like you said, the key to us was, me and my business partner Joel, we are on our phones all the time, as is everyone, really. But we notice we're on our phones all the time, and we're getting nagged by other people, mostly our parents, about being on your phone.
How old are you and your founder?
We're both 28.
28. Okay, interesting. Yeah. All right, which makes you, a little old, older.
Yeah. So this is our third business.
Okay.
But it's the first that we've raised external finance for. So we ran a couple of other businesses previously. They were both profitable. I always like to joke they were profitable, therefore they weren't interesting, therefore we canned them. But they weren't scalable from our perspective.
Okay.
But both of them we ended in profit, and we actually, the second one, we made a considerable amount of profit in about 4 months and decided we didn't want to do it. It was a daily deal site. It was absolutely horrendous business, not ever going into anything like that ever again.
I want to talk about that later.
Sure, we can talk about that, but yeah, not a fan. But the point is we made some money, and we were able to, that's why we were able to not pay ourselves for the first year of doing Grabble. Okay. We were also able to pay for our first developer and do some market research, which is actually like how we started off with Grabble. Grabble started off completely different. We just went out speaking to consumers, finding out how they shop online.
Right. I remember you said like that the first 9 months of Grabble, you realized you were getting it wrong.
Yeah.
You were getting it wrong. The reason I mentioned your age is because I'm guessing your average age of the user of Grabble is younger, or is that just me assuming?
No, you're correct.
Okay.
Average is 25.
Okay.
So we say it's an 18 to 30 audience. There are outliers in there. There's if you
like me today.
Sure,
right?
exactly. You're skewing my data.
Sorry.
But yeah, actually 25 to 30 is kind of our sweet spot at the moment in terms of users. We have just hired a new fashion director who comes from Net-a-Porter Group.
Yes.
The idea with that was to try and sophisticate the product slightly. Not to take it like a high end, because there's great companies and great apps in the space doing that already. But we want to find the right niche that fulfills the market for that sort of 18 to 30 market that is, if you think about it, extremely wide. In terms of like their interests and their points of difference.
Right.
But when it comes to things like personalization and stuff, it's also important to understand the mid-range and the more sophisticated choices people might want.
Right, that's very important for you. So you said that you found that you were on your mobile all the time.
So yeah, So I took a bit of a tangent, but we were on our mobile all the time, and we'd created this website. And the concept originally was Pinterest meets ASOS, right? So you could get a grab button, you could save your favorite products from any other site back onto our site, but they'd be fashion products, and unlike Pinterest, they were rich in data. So we were able to track the price and stock availability of each product. So if it ever went down in price, a user would get a notification going, this ASOS shirt you like has gone down in price, buy it now. And we were often actually able to tell our users it had gone down in price before even ASOS were, because like our script would read it first, and by the time ASOS have done a sale or email out, we've already told our users. So that was quite an interesting thing as well. But for us, we basically noticed, we had a younger audience then. It was more 18 to 25. Our open rates, they went crazy on email.
So it's like 80%?
Yeah.
Which is unheard of.
80% of our audience were opening our emails on mobile.
Okay.
And then
where industry standard
up.
would be 20% or 10 or 5%. Or,
yeah, it's growing all the time now, of course.
Right.
So towards the end of last year, for the first time ever, where 50% of all web traffic came from in retail went from mobile. So suddenly, there's this massive trend where actually mobile has just come into a huge space in terms of actually shopping retail. The reason for it is because everyone is essentially getting traffic from social media, and most social media is being consumed on mobile. So if you're Topshop and you're sending out a tweet that's engaging and people want to buy it, they're going to click it there, they're going to come to Topshop's site through their mobile. That's just the logical way they're going to get there.
Right. Does that mean email's dying, or is it not necessarily one or the other?
Email has its place. Okay. There's loads of debates all the time about email, and email needs a redesign, and email needs a rethink. And of course, there's the new inbox by Gmail, which is an interesting sort of rethink of it all.
Right. The way it filters things. And
I like it, but it's very polarizing, I've noticed.
Right.
So I think email actually still has a really good place. And it still converts really well for us, actually. But what was interesting at the time was it was converting terribly, because we had, like everyone else, a mobile web site, and it was just delivering poor results. So we we really struggle, no matter what we did, no matter what designer we work with, we struggle to fit in a quality e-commerce experience into mobile web.
Okay. Even when you were designing for mobile, you still had a hard time getting it right.
It makes no difference because it's always limited by the size of the hardware. So you look at the biggest hardware phone on the market, it'd be the iPhone 6 Plus. And even so, like it's big, it's quite a big phone, but even so, that's like a limited shopping window, realistically, to be getting your filters, to be getting your basket, to be getting everything in. So it's interesting because as a browsing experience, I mean, look, if you're going to purchase and, there's things like PayPal, etc., to make it easy, that's okay. But the reality is, if you want to browse on that experience, it's incredibly frustrating. We looked at all the mobile apps, like from Topshop to Net-a-Porter to the ASOS, good apps, the ones that are the most popular, and realized they were all doing the same thing, which was they were probably sitting in product teams working out how on earth they can fit e-commerce into a mobile app because they're e-commerce companies and that's what they need to do.
Right.
So Joel and I were like, well, actually, let's look at this completely differently. What are the apps that are addictive on your phone? What are the apps that are like the go-to apps that you want to use, that you just, everyone is guilty of this. You've used Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram that day, and now you're just staring at your phone, looking at it like, it's got to be an app I can kill some time on here.
Right, when you have 25 other apps downloaded and you don't open them, right?
And everyone does it. Everyone's like, oh, not that one now, and it's a bit cumbersome.
Right.
So the go-to ones that are just easy, and like Tinder was like a massive, massive win. So firstly, like everything about Tinder is obviously genius, but everyone knows the number one winner is the UX. And when you say Tinder for fashion, don't have to explain it to anyone. I mean, even my mum knew what Tinder for fashion meant.
I knew when you told me.
There you go. Well, you're a bit younger than my mum, thank goodness. But hey.
Do you ever feel bad about saying you're Tinder for this or that? Or do you just like, look, that's the best way to explain it? I mean, it's 3 words.
Yeah, if you can, lots of people say that. If you can explain your company, like your mission, your UX and everything about what you do in 3 words, you're onto a winner. Right. I mean, we used to try and explain the website, and ASOS meets Pinterest was the easiest one. We still have to explain what that means. Yeah. Tinder for fashion is an instant, correlation in your mind.
Right. So you had gone down the road and developed this whole interface for web, and then you did a 180 and basically walked away from a lot of that development work and went to the apps.
So it was really painful. So I
find this fascinating because you have to be a certain kind of company and a certain kind of person to do that.
We had no choice. So you're right. You're totally right. But basically, the story for me and Joel was, so this is an unusual thing for tech company. Neither Joel or I are tech at all. So we dabbled and we created this daily deal site where we used a Ukrainian white label software solution and learned some HTML, but that's not coding. So, we had this struggle, and we've always had this struggle until recently with the technology, with who we're working with the technology. Do we trust them? Are they contract day rates? Are they outsourced? We've tried everything. There's no golden bullet for us. It's just after a period of time, you find the right person and you stick with them. So we'd actually gone through slow rounds of funding, like 25 grand here and 50 grand there, and always to prove the next sort of needle. And all those needles were based on the web. So we eventually ended up raising 250K, and it was this promise to deliver this nicer looking web platform that our consumers expected. We'd done some research, the UX, the UI that wasn't quite right, but the concept was good, what we had. So we raised this money to create this website. It was delayed and delayed and delayed, as things are with developers. We lost a lot of our users and a lot of our users' trust, which was frustrating for us. Also, at the same time, you've got a team who aren't developers, who are kind of limited in what they can do.
Right.
So, waiting for instruction and waiting for something to happen. There's no website there, really.
Kills company morale a bit.
Totally.
Okay.
So these are all challenges that we had. When we finally launched the website, we were like, thank God, we're sorted. We've done it. We've launched this fucking website. Boom, let's go and market it. Let's get these users. And we send these emails out. And this is in June, July kind of time in 2014, and these open rates on mobile had gone from 30% when we were started to relaunch in March to 80%, like I said, by the time it was July.
And that wasn't an email open rate. That was an email open rate.
It was, yes. If we send an email, everyone's opening on mobile, so they're coming straight to our mobile site. And then we were like, Jesus, the mobile experience is cumbersome.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we speak to all of our clients who are, a lot of retail clients. So retailers have always been very positive about our mission and what we try and do. So they get great feedback from them all the time, whether it's positive, negative, they're always really communicative, which is fantastic. and very lucky if you're running a startup because you do get that inside track. They all have the same problem. But it's very interesting, the mobile web app debate is, it all comes down to the user. So there's a few things, but how many apps is a user going to have on their phone? Well, it might have 100, but when it comes to retail, when it comes to e-commerce or fashion, they're only going to have a couple because you're not going to have 10 fashion apps on your phone. So very typically people have Topman or Topshop, ASOS and Net-a-Porter and Mr. Porter. So, you're talking 3 or 4 apps in that space are basically, they're not unicorns, they're like the lions, if you will. And they perform well, they take a good market share, but generally none of the other retailers are willing to create an app because they're obviously aware of the difficulty at distributing the app, maintaining the app on the person's phone. And obviously, from a technological perspective, there's a lot of maintenance that goes on behind the scenes for them. So they all commit to mobile web, which not necessarily the wrong strategy, but if you're a consumer and you have an app, it's 10 times as fast. You can think about the user experience a lot cleaner. There's a whole load of valuable reasons why an app is better.
Right. Do you remember when you made the decision with Joel where you're like, we're going this way?
Yeah, he'd spent about 7 hours on Tinder that day. No, I'm joking. But
that was a major inspiration for you, right?
Yeah, it was.
Good artist copy, great artist steal.
Absolutely. So he, in fairness, we had secretly done an HTML5 app previously. We didn't have a mobile team. So we'd used our web developers to create basically a HTML5 app, which did that in prototype, and we passed it around our team and we passed it around some friends and they were just all loving it. So we were like, well, actually, if that's the case, maybe this is good validation. So let's look at this. So, the reality for Joel and I was we'd raised this money, right? We'd raised 250K to deliver this web product, and it'd given us until maybe December, roughly. So just recently.
Right.
And we launched it, and we'd spent a lot of money. We still had time, except then we realized that, we'd made a big mistake. And actually the thing that we raised money for, the money that we'd spent, was ill-advised. It was the wrong call. So we went to some investors. Well, we went to actually all of our investors. Some investors were like, no, absolutely not. Don't do that. Like, commit to your vision. It's a great vision. Other investors were like, that's a great idea. I actually agree. Don't worry about the money. Like, just make sure you do it. And before you run out of money or you won't be able to raise any more. So we had this really difficult period. Hardest period was between July and September, where there was this website that we weren't really committed to internally anymore because we decided we were going to become a mobile company, and actually being able to release our MVP of the app, which happened like the last day of September pretty much, so pretty much October. And we'd been around for a year by then. So, we started in September 2013. So classic pivot. By September 2014, we're an app company. So,
and what did your investors say about that? Was that hard to sell?
The younger ones, this is completely honest, the younger ones were really into it because they had all become so mobile obsessed. The older ones, who really we'd gone to for a lot of guidance and had been great for us, were really anti it, which was difficult because we trusted them a lot. They trusted us a lot. We're spending their money. At the end of the day, it's a mutual relationship. We're really lucky. We got a really great relationship with every single investor, but I'd say it was a 50-50 divide, which was hard.
Okay.
It wasn't, it was bang in the middle.
When I was talking to the CEO of Hotel Tonight, he was just saying, Brian, it's when you get into the app space, it's just a whole different world. It's just like a whole different set of rules, Newtonian versus, quantum, and everything changes. And he said, you can't run your Google ads. You can't do all this other stuff that you might be able to do to boost traffic. You're either in or you're out. Yeah. I know you guys are enjoying kind of a #1 ranking fashion app in the UK, which is fantastic. But if you're not in that top 10, is it really like being in the neutral zone somewhere?
Yeah, which obviously we suffered from originally. So right. The first app we launched was Android. It's a little better than the App Store because there are some SEO, Google, inbuilt things you can do.
Right.
If you have a niche like fashion, everyone has a niche, right? Then you obviously need to play to those keywords and make sure you throw in all the right ones. And actually, for stuff that we do is we actually have to constantly, look, search is an old game, right? So search is one of the main reasons, interestingly, that we were like, just screw this website stuff, because SEO has just been done and mastered for years, and to try and come in now with a website that you think you've got a chance with SEOing, there's no chance whatsoever.
Really?
You can't afford it.
Right.
You can't afford to get up there. You can't afford to do the PPC. You can't afford any of it, whereas the app market is still kind of fresh, realistically. I mean, there might be millions of apps, but it's still kind of a fresh game and people are still relearning the rules. So ASO, which is App Store Optimization, is more of an interesting thing that we're able to just say, right, well, we're new players to the game, but then again, if you consider 1 million apps over sort of 100 million websites, I know what I'd prefer to be challenging.
Yeah.
So, for us, it was actually doing searches on things like, well, AW15, for example, which is autumn winter 15.
Okay.
Is like the current season, gets a ton of searches in the App Store. No one really optimizes for it, and so making sure that you have that little thing somewhere in your description means you're going to be found for like the latest looks and stuff. Because if you're a fashion consumer, that's how you speak. Right. That's your vernacular.
And you're speaking to businesses sometimes. You're B2B playing that way because you want to talk to those businesses. In retrospect, can you look back and say it was us making like 1 or 2 or 3 simple choices, to get where you are now with that ranking of the app? Was it? I mean, obviously, I guess the design was such an important part.
Okay, that's a good question.
Without giving away too many secrets, but
yeah, no. Well, I mean, I wish. I think with a lot of this stuff. So, for example, someone asked me. This is genuinely true. So I actually met you in the gym the day after we had the #1 ranked fashion app.
Yeah, you showed me. I was like, hey.
I was showing everyone. I mean, I was like, I couldn't believe it. Do you know how we knew? Joel and I were working Thursday night, and we were just like, it was maybe 8, 9 o'clock, and we were just talking, and we were like, well, we were talking about something we wanted to do on the weekend. So he was like, well, I'll check the Timeout app, and he went to look on the App Store to download the Timeout app, and was like, holy shit, we're #1 app. And we were like, well, the two of us, and he was like, just open up your App Store right now. I was like, oh my God.
And you're an app company and you didn't know.
Didn't know.
Right.
Didn't know. So this is the thing, like that spot is basically reserved for the judgment of Apple, which I'm proud to say is,
they have wonderful taste.
Something fantastic taste, thank God. So we were super chuffed, but there's different elements. So the things that we've achieved that are notable on the App Store is we've had the #1 most searched for app in the UK during Black Friday, which is the biggest shopping day of the year.
Yeah.
So that was a massive milestone for us. We also did fantastic traffic. So fortunately, Skimlinks, we use Skimlinks. Unfortunately, one of our investors, as you know, is the chairman of Skimlinks. And
right.
It was good news for us because actually he hadn't invested at the time. This was all, we were in conversation with him.
Okay.
And on Black Friday, we did 1% of all of Skimlinks mobile traffic. Wow. All their sales, 1% of all their sales went through the Grabble app on Black Friday.
Wow.
Here's this guy we're talking to who's chairman of Skimlinks, and I was like, Alex, did you know? He's like, yeah, I know. And I want to invest. So I was like, thank God. That was the best thing we could do. So anyway, we had the #1 search for app. So that's like in trending searches where it says Grabble at the top. The way we got that, we basically did a lot of activity on Twitter. Almost all of the marketing we've done, so this is speaking as a sort of CMO.
Yeah.
The #1 thing we learned the hard way is advertising doesn't work for us. I come from an advertising background. Advertising's great. I love advertising, but sometimes it doesn't work for what you do. Being a fashion app and being like, hey, we're a fashion app, you need our fashion app, is just not a way to approach it. What you need is word of mouth. And of course, word of mouth is easy to say and hard to execute. But of course, as any marketer will know, that's why influencers are around. We did stuff with YouTubers, amazing influencers, amazing. So they'll do a YouTube video, they'll mention Grabble just somewhere in there. And that gets us a lot of traffic. And then same thing with Twitter. So for us, when we launched our app, our beta, so not our MVP, but when we really went to launch it, we basically locked myself in a room in Twitter. Not in Twitter. It's how it felt. Right. I locked myself in a room and researched all these different Twitter pages, all these different accounts, all these different bloggers, and who would be influential. Okay. And I got in touch with maybe 500 or 600 people to ask them all to tweet out at a certain time about Grabble. And the only rule that I gave them was they weren't allowed to say download Grabble. They weren't allowed to hashtag Grabble. They weren't allowed to @Grabble. They weren't allowed to, I say the only rule, sounds like 10 rules. They weren't allowed at any point to endorse Grabble. The only thing they were allowed to do was say they do a meme, for example, of someone with a happy face or whatever, right? It was that feeling I get when I find that dress I want on Grabble.
You know that a CMO at any Fortune 500 company would have told them to do every single one of those things.
Yeah, but I mean, we tried them. As in, this isn't like we're a genius. We tried all those things and they didn't work. So this comes down to timing again. So this was, the most stressful part of our entire period at Grabble was this 2-week period because we had spent almost all our money. So we'd got the funding and we'd spent all the money on developing the web product and we realized we'd done the wrong thing. And so instantly we have to become a mobile company. We have to find a mobile designer. We have to find a head of mobile. We have to find a new product manager that's mobile focused. And we have to out with the old and in with the new and just fucking become mobile. So that's expensive. And when you've got nothing but like a clear deadline, you know how long it takes to raise money as well, you've got no choice. So we had that and we had maybe 25 grand in the bank.
Where are your gray hairs?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're coming, believe me.
You seem surprisingly calm.
I get this is up and down. It's your coffee. It's that calming coffee that you gave me.
Bulletproof coffee. So you got the funding deadline coming. You got the bank balance dropping. You're really not even pivoting. You're pulling like a whole completely different business strategy. Yeah, but you see it all happening in your mind. You're like, we can make this happen.
Well, we tried. This is the thing. So we tried to advertise. Nothing happened at scale. So we tried Facebook ads, which work for some companies. And, I actually believe in them, but not when you don't have much money. You need time and space for them. Yeah. We tried Twitter ads, we tried banner ads, everyone will get in contact with you if you ever run a mobile app company, we can optimize your CPM for £2 per install, £3 per install, that's like UK average. It's like, well, I don't have the budget to do anything at scale. My investors are going to think like, what the hell? So I really had to think. So what we had was £5,000.
What was £5,000?
We had £5,000. As in I said to Joel, who's like holds the purse strings, really, I'm like, we got £5,000, we've got about 2 months, like what the hell are we going to do? So I took that £5,000, I just researched all these people on Twitter and I just started going to them, DMing them basically, and I have an interesting opportunity for you, etc.
But what do you offer them if you don't have anything?
Just £10-20 a tweet.
Okay.
As in literally, it's desperate, but, because you're giving these people rules, right? And it's their page. And you're not like, I'm not trying to be a dick, and I'm not trying to undermine your page, but I researched their page. And so one of the things that worked really well was, you have, so one of my favorite ones is there was this page called Lord of the Rings Reactions, right? So we wanted students to begin with, right? We wanted loads of students. So I found out this page, Lord of the Rings Reactions, and they had like 1 million followers. And every time they do a meme, it gets like thousands of retweets. So I was like, this is a really engaged page. We could do something funny on this. So I got in touch with the owner of that page and I made them a meme. So I made a meme where these pages did memes that get retweeted so much, I created a meme specially for them. And this meme was a picture of Frodo holding up the ring, and the tweet was that feeling when you finally find that bloody ring on Grabble. And it was like, when we did the campaign, that got retweeted like 12,000 times or something.
Wow, this is guerrilla marketing at its best.
And it was all we had. So I was like, Joel, we can not spend the £5,000 and we can spend it slowly over the next 2 months and die a death, or we can literally Sunday night, perfect time, before X Factor and after the football. And we chose a night where specifically, because Twitter is basically on a Sunday is 100% football or X Factor. So we chose a day where football games weren't massive. It was like the Super Sunday was like a mid-league one. Made sure that it was far enough before X Factor. And so I'd gone in negotiating with all these different pages, £10-20, I created all these memes, wrote the memes for most of them, not the fashion bloggers. So fashion bloggers, you've got to be careful and not tell them what to do, but I just gave them the rules. I was like, please don't endorse us, don't hashtag us, don't make it look like advertising. Anyway, it all went out at 7:15 on a Sunday night. Joel and I sitting in the Hoxton Hotel, actually right next to here.
Yeah. In the lobby, just waiting.
No, well, so we'd been there all day, and we'd actually had our first investment meeting with Alex Hoy that day, and it was one of those things, typical scenario where you're like, you should invest now. He's like, well, I might just wait till see how tonight goes. You're like, fuck.
Alex, how dare you?
Yeah, exactly. Can you wait 12 hours? Could you wait to miss this opportunity? Anyway, so we sat in that lobby, and we didn't even notice. The Hoxton Hotel was like, it was buzzing around us, and it was us two hogging up 2 tables with our laptops, like just drinking water, just like staring and staring. And suddenly it all just kicks off. We just start getting mentioned over and over again. We got all of our friends involved. We got everyone that we possibly could. All our retailers were like, this is our last shot.